In this video, we're going to look at questions 6 to 10 of the Intermediate Maths Challenge from 2022. 20% of 3 3/4. This is much easier if we first convert 3 3/4 to a top-heavy fraction, to an improper fraction. So I've got 3 times 4 is 12, so 3 is 12 quarters. Add another 3/4 would give us 15 quarters. So that's 3 3/4, and I want to do 20% of that. So 20% is 1/5. So we multiply 1/5 by 15 over 4. We can cancel a factor of 5 here, and we're left just with 3/4. So the answer here is D. So if we start with a positive integer and put the number through this machine, we can see that everything here makes it smaller, dividing by 3 or subtracting 10, dividing by 3, subtracting 10. So it's going to get smaller and smaller as it goes through this machine. So if we input a positive integer and get a positive integer out, and we want the smallest possible input, well, it's also going to correspond to the smallest possible output. So the smallest integer output we could get here would be 1. And now I'm going to just work my way back through the function machine and see what the integer would have been at each step. So before we subtracted 10, it would have been 11, adding 10. Before we divide by 3, it would be 33, so we're timesing by 3 to undo the division by 3 and adding 10 to undo the subtraction. So we add 10 again and get 43, times by 3, and we get 129, and then we see that 129 here is the smallest number that you could put in to get an integer out. You could also do this by quickly just checking the other values and seeing that you don't get a positive integer as the output if you want to, but I think that's probably the most efficient way of doing it. I've put all of these questions and more into a free online course called Get Ready for the Intermediate Maths Challenge. In that course, you can work through all of these problems, you can check the answer, you can watch the video solution, but as well as the video solution, there's also a short video hint before each question that will really help you get into the problem and give you the best chance of solving it for yourself. So I'll put a link to that course in the description below. You can go over there and sign up now, totally free, and there are no ads or distractions like there are on YouTube either. Now there are lots of different orders you could do the working in this question, and I suppose it's not too hard just to work out these two numbers individually and subtract them, so perhaps we should just do that. 50% of 60 gives us 30, that's just a half of 60, and then 40% of 30, well, you can either say 10% is 3, so 40% is 12, which is 3 times 4, or do that however you want, and again 50% of 60, percent of 70, so that would be the same as 30% of 70, so 10% of 70 is 7, and 30% gives us 21 then. So really what I want to do here is 21 minus 12, and 21 minus 12 gives us 9 as the answer. But lots of different ways you could do this. I mean, you could also spot perhaps that there's 50 and 60 in here, so effectively, you know, this is the same question as if it said, you know, 70, so as if this was 70% of 50% of 60, right? So I've got 70% of this thing minus 40% of this thing, so overall the answer to this question is just 30% of 50% of 60. And the way multiplication works, you know, you can treat any of these numbers as percentages and just one of them as the actual number you're working with, and so again I get 30% of 50% of 60, that's 30% of 30, which again is 9, and gets us to the same answer, of course. So this is the first question in this paper where we're going to use a bit of a maths challenge trick, which is to say that we know this question must have a solution that's true for all values of x, and so in particular we are allowed here in a maths challenge just to pick a value of x that's greater than 2022 and work out which is the smallest value for that value of x, right? Now, I'm not saying this gives a perfect mathematical answer to the question if I had to give working, but for the purpose of a challenge where we do need to get through the questions as quickly as possible, this sort of method can save you a little bit of time, make things a little bit easier to think through. So it's perfectly acceptable here, just because it's a maths challenge, just because we know that one of these must be the answer for whatever value of x we choose, right, to take, let's take something greater than 2022, the easiest thing I could do is to take 2023, right? Then A would be 2023 over 2022, which is 1 and 1 over 2022. B would be 2022 over 2022, which is exactly 1. And then C would be 2024 over 2022, which is 1 and 2 over 2022, or 1 over 1011 if you like. Anyway, it's bigger than the other options, so we don't need to worry about it. We're looking for the smallest one, and we've got 2022 over 2023, and we've got 2022 over 2024, and so here I'm either taking 2022 and dividing it by 2023 or 2024. If I divide by the bigger number, I get the smaller result, and also these two are both less than 1, so they're smaller than all of the other ones here. Okay, so the smallest number out of all of these is this one, and so the answer here is E, and we don't have to work in any generality. Now, we could also think about how to answer this question a bit more properly, I suppose. This first number, A here, is always going to be bigger than 1 if X is bigger than 2022, and so is C, right? Because the numerator is going to be bigger than the denominator. Now, B is going to be less than or equal to 1, depending on the value of X. Any larger value than the one we took will get something less than 1, and this is going to be less than 1. This one's going to be less than 1. And if I compare B, D, and E, I've got 2022 divided by either X minus 1, X, or X plus 1. To get the smallest possible result, I want to divide by the largest possible number, and so we can see that the answer is E, regardless of the value of X that we chose. But nothing wrong for the purpose of a maths challenge of doing exactly what we did at the start, being happy we know that must be the answer, moving on, and maybe thinking about the more general result when we get home after the challenge. So this pattern goes on for 100 rectangles in total, but we know they're all 3 by 1 rectangles. So I'm going to look at the horizontal and the vertical sections separately here, right? So horizontally along the bottom here, I've got a section that's 1 and then 3, right? So this bit, just this section here is 4, and if there's 100 rectangles in total, there will be 50 copies of that, right? So we'll get a contribution of 4 times 50, which is 200 to the perimeter there. Now if we look at the tops, actually we get the same again, right? Because I can think, oh, I've also got a 1 here and a 3 here, followed by a 1 here and a 3 here, and so on. So that gives me another 200. Now if I think about the vertical parts, right, I've got a 3 here and then a 2 here, right, and then I've got a 2 here and a 2 here and a 2 here and a 2 here. So slightly different logic might apply here, because I've got to think about those end pieces differently. But if I think about saying I'm basically going to have 50 of these vertical pieces here, right? They're all going to have the left and the right parts that are too high like this, and just the end ones are going to have an extra 1 on each end as well. So I'm going to have, again, 50 lots of 4 for the 50 pieces that are just 2 plus 2, so that gives me another 200, and then I'm going to have this one on the end on this side and then one on the end on the other side, so finally I add another 2, and so in total I've got here 200 plus 200 plus 200 plus 2, which is 602, and so the answer is C. So I really hope that was useful. Don't forget, I think the best way to prepare for the Intermediate Maths Challenge is to click below and take my totally free online course, Get Ready for the Intermediate Maths Challenge, where you can work through all of these problems and more, not just with the solutions, but also with video hints to help you get started. So do check that out if you haven't already, and share it with your friends. Please do like this video and subscribe to the channel as well. Really helps me get the content out there, and I will see you soon.